He thought it was just a blind date until she said, "You don't remember me, do you?" Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. The next day, Emma couldn't stop thinking about the man she had accidentally met at the restaurant. She had tried to shake off the embarrassment, but his face, his calm demeanor, and that faint smile he had given her lingered in her mind. She was at work, busy with her shift at the diner, but her thoughts kept drifting back to him. Could it be that she had just ruined her one chance to meet someone special? She sighed, wiping down the counter and trying to focus on her tasks. The clinking of plates, the sizzling of the grill, and the chatter of customers were all she had to distract her from the nagging feeling in her chest. She had made a fool of herself, and now she was paying the price with a day that felt endless. It was just a stupid mistake, she reminded herself. Just a blind date. Nothing to get worked up about. Yet, why did it feel like so much more? Meanwhile, Liam sat in his sleek, modern office, his mind wandering as he tried to focus on the stack of emails in front of him. He had a million things to do: business meetings, contracts to sign, and projects to review, but his thoughts kept drifting back to Emma. The conversation with her had felt different, real in a way that nothing in his polished, business-driven life ever had. He wasn't sure why, but he found himself wondering about her more and more. He had almost told her the truth about who he was, but something held him back. Maybe it was the vulnerability in her eyes when she thought he was just another guy on a blind date. Or maybe it was her genuine, unfiltered nature, something he hadn't encountered in a long time. She had no idea who he really was, and that had made her more interesting than any woman he had ever met. He knew he had to see her again. It was a couple of days later when Emma's phone buzzed. She glanced down at it, half expecting it to be a message from Jenny. But to her surprise, it was a text from an unknown number. Her heart skipped a beat as she read the message. "Hi Emma, it's Liam. I know this is a little forward, but I'd really like to see you again. How about coffee tomorrow?" Emma stared at the screen, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. Should she reply? Was this some kind of joke? But no, the message felt sincere. She could almost feel his calm voice in her head, the same tone he had used at the restaurant. After a moment of hesitation, she typed a quick reply. "Sure, coffee sounds good. How about 10 a.m. at the usual place?" She hit send before she could second-guess herself, feeling a strange mix of excitement and nervousness. What was going to happen next? The next morning, Emma arrived at the coffee shop a little early, nervously scanning the room for Liam. She found a quiet corner by the window, her hands wrapped around a warm cup of coffee as she tried to calm her racing thoughts. Her mind kept replaying the last conversation she had with him, the way he had looked at her with those kind brown eyes. What was she even doing here? She wasn't like the women he probably dated. She was just a waitress with a dream of one day opening an art studio. She had nothing in common with a guy like him, right? She shook her head, trying to banish the negative thoughts that threatened to overwhelm her. As she stared out the window, she didn't even notice Liam enter until he was standing right in front of her, his presence filling the space around her. He smiled, his eyes lighting up as he greeted her, and for a brief moment, all her doubts melted away. "Hi, Emma. Glad we could meet again," he said, his voice warm and genuine. Emma smiled back, suddenly feeling more at ease. "Me too," she said softly, looking down at her cup for a moment before meeting his gaze. The tension between them had melted away in an instant, replaced by something more comfortable, more real. They spent the next hour talking, their conversation flowing more easily than Emma had expected. They laughed about their awkward first meeting and shared stories about their lives. Liam told her about his work in tech, though he still kept the details vague. He was careful not to reveal too much, but he found himself opening up to her more than he ever had before. Emma, on the other hand, told him about her job at the diner, her struggles with paying rent, and her dream of becoming an artist. It felt easy, like they had known each other for years. There was no pretension, no forced small talk, just two people, talking, connecting. By the time they finished their coffee, Emma felt like she was in a dream. She couldn't believe how comfortable she was around him. He had a way of making her feel at ease, like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. As they left the coffee shop, Liam offered to walk her to her car. They walked down the street together, the chilly morning air making Emma pull her jacket tighter around her. She glanced up at him, unsure of how to proceed. Was this just a casual meeting, or was there something more? Liam seemed to sense her hesitation and stopped walking, turning to face her. "I'm really glad we met," he said, his tone serious but warm. "I know we didn't start off on the right foot, but I think we could have something special here if you're open to it." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't expected this kind of honesty, especially not so soon. She looked up at him, searching his face for any sign of insincerity. There was none. He was being completely genuine. "I think I'd like that," she said, smiling softly. They stood there for a moment, both unsure of what to say next, but the silence wasn't uncomfortable. It was just a quiet understanding between two people who had unexpectedly found something real. As they said their goodbyes, Emma's mind raced. What had just happened? Had Liam really meant what he said? She had no idea, but she couldn't wait to find out. She smiled to herself as she drove home, feeling the warmth of their conversation linger long after they had parted ways. Maybe this time, things would be different. Maybe this was the start of something more. The next few days passed in a blur for Emma. She couldn't stop thinking about Liam and their unexpected connection. The coffee date had been a turning point for her, one she hadn't anticipated. Every time she replayed their conversation in her head, she was filled with a mixture of excitement and confusion. Liam was nothing like the men she had met before. He was calm, genuine, and seemed genuinely interested in her as a person. She had expected him to be just another rich guy looking for a fling, but something about him told her that wasn't the case. And the way he had looked at her, the sincerity in his eyes, had left her wondering if this could be more than just a passing encounter. But still, doubts lingered in her mind. Could someone like him really be interested in someone like her? A waitress with big dreams but very little to show for them? She had never imagined that someone like Liam could look beyond the surface, beyond her job and her modest lifestyle. She sighed as she stared at the blank canvas on her easel, a sketchbook open beside her with unfinished drawings. Her passion for art was real, but the financial struggles were a constant weight on her shoulders. How could she possibly balance her dream with reality? How could she expect Liam to understand that? Meanwhile, Liam found himself unable to focus on his work. He sat in his office, surrounded by piles of papers, emails flooding in, and meetings that were supposed to be his priority, but all he could think about was Emma. He had never been the type to get distracted by a woman, especially one he barely knew. But Emma was different. She had made him laugh in ways he hadn't in a long time. She had an openness about her that he found refreshing. And for the first time in a long time, he felt like he could just be himself around her. He wasn't Liam Parker, the tech millionaire. He was just Liam. And it felt good. He thought about calling her again, but he hesitated. What if she wasn't as interested as he was? What if she had just been polite, humoring him because they had spent a couple of hours together? He didn't want to push her, but he knew he couldn't just let this feeling slip away. She had said she would like to see him again, but was she just being nice? He needed to find out, but he wanted to do it in a way that didn't feel forced. The opportunity came sooner than he expected. The next week, they ran into each other again, this time at a charity event that Liam's company was sponsoring. Emma had been invited by a friend who worked in the art community, and when she walked into the ballroom, she felt completely out of place. The glittering lights, the fancy dresses, and the well-dressed guests made her feel like an outsider. But she had promised her friend she would show up, so she pushed through. She scanned the room for a familiar face, but instead, her eyes locked onto Liam, standing at the far side of the room. He was in a sharp tuxedo, his hair neatly styled, and he was surrounded by a group of people. But as soon as he saw her, his expression softened, and he excused himself from the group. Emma's heart skipped a beat. "Hey," he said, walking over to her with that same warm smile. "I didn't expect to see you here." Emma smiled back, feeling a wave of relief wash over her. "Yeah, me neither," she admitted. "I didn't think I'd make it, but here I am." She glanced around the room, feeling a little out of place in her simple dress compared to the glamorous crowd. Liam seemed to notice her discomfort and immediately tried to put her at ease. "You look great," he said, his voice genuine. "Don't let all this fancy stuff fool you. Most of these people are just pretending to fit in." Emma laughed, feeling a little lighter. "I'm not pretending," she said, her smile widening. "I'm definitely out of my element." Liam chuckled, taking a step closer. "Well, you don't have to pretend with me," he said. "I'd rather be here with you than anywhere else." His words hit her like a wave, and for the first time since she had walked into the event, she felt like she belonged. They spent the next few hours talking and getting to know each other better. Emma found herself opening up to him in ways she hadn't expected. She shared her struggles, her hopes, and the dreams she had for her art. She told him about the challenges she faced, working long hours at the diner just to pay rent and keep her head above water. Liam listened attentively, and with each passing moment, she felt herself growing more comfortable with him. He didn't judge her, didn't treat her like she was beneath him. He saw her for who she truly was, not just a waitress, but a woman with aspirations, fears, and a kind heart. As the evening drew to a close, Liam walked her to her car. The night air was crisp, but it didn't feel as cold as it had when she arrived. "I'm really glad we ran into each other tonight," Liam said, his voice low. "Me too," Emma replied softly, glancing up at him. "I wasn't sure what to expect, but I'm glad we're getting to know each other better." Liam reached out, gently brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I'd like to keep getting to know you," he said, his eyes sincere. "Would you be open to that?" Emma's heart raced as she looked at him. "I'd like that too," she said, a smile tugging at her lips. They stood there for a moment, the world around them fading as they shared a quiet understanding, a connection that had only just begun. As Emma drove home that night, she couldn't stop smiling. She felt like something had shifted between them, like they were no longer strangers. Maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something real. The days that followed their meeting at the charity event seemed to pass in a blur for Emma. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Liam's warm smile and the way his eyes had softened when he looked at her. She had never imagined someone like him could see past her job, her modest apartment, and the struggles she faced every day. But the more she thought about it, the more she found herself wondering if this was a dream, something too good to be true. Was she really going to fall for someone like him, someone so different from her, or was she just setting herself up for heartbreak? At the same time, Liam was feeling just as conflicted. He had spent years building his empire, focusing solely on his career. But Emma had shifted something inside him. Every conversation with her felt like a breath of fresh air, something real and unfiltered. She wasn't impressed by his wealth or status. She simply saw him as a man, and that was something he hadn't experienced in a long time. He found himself making excuses to check in on her, whether it was sending a text to see how her day was going or meeting her at the local park for a casual walk. He wasn't sure what this was, but he knew he didn't want it to end. One afternoon, Emma was walking to work when she received a message from Liam. "I know you've been busy, but I was hoping we could spend some time together this weekend. I have something I want to show you. No pressure, just a chance to hang out." She stared at the message for a moment, her heart fluttering. A part of her was excited, but another part was filled with doubt. She hadn't expected him to ask her out again so soon, but the sincerity in his words made her feel like this wasn't just a casual invitation. Maybe, just maybe, he was really interested in her. She quickly typed out a response. "That sounds nice. I'd love to. What do you have in mind?" She hit send before she could second-guess herself, and as soon as she did, she felt a rush of both excitement and nervousness. What if this time it was different? What if they both saw each other in a different light? What if this was the beginning of something real? On the day they were supposed to meet, Emma found herself standing in front of her closet, trying to figure out what to wear. She wanted to look good, but she didn't want to seem like she was trying too hard. In the end, she settled on a simple dress that was comfortable but still made her feel confident. As she checked herself in the mirror, she reminded herself that it wasn't about impressing Liam, it was about enjoying the time they were going to spend together, no matter where it took them. When they met, Liam was waiting for her outside a small cafe. He greeted her with a warm smile, and Emma couldn't help but feel a little more at ease. He looked casual but stylish in a simple jacket and jeans, and for the first time, she noticed how effortless he seemed. He wasn't wearing his usual business suit or designer attire. He was just Liam, and that felt comforting. "Hey, you look amazing," Liam said as she approached. Emma blushed at the compliment but quickly brushed it off. "Thank you. You look pretty good yourself." They both laughed, and for a moment, it felt like nothing else mattered. No wealth, no expectations, just two people enjoying each other's company. They spent the next few hours walking around the city, stopping at different spots that Liam seemed to know intimately. They wandered through a beautiful park, where they sat on a bench, chatting about everything and nothing at the same time. Emma found herself laughing more than she had in a long time, and it was clear that Liam was enjoying the time just as much as she was. As the day went on, Emma started to feel more relaxed, more comfortable in his presence. It was like all the doubts and insecurities she had been carrying with her melted away, replaced by a growing connection she couldn't ignore. Liam seemed to be opening up more too, telling her about his childhood and how his life had shaped the man he had become. It was a side of him she hadn't expected to see, but it made her feel even more drawn to him. At the end of the day, as the sun began to set, they found themselves standing on a quiet street corner. Liam turned to her, his eyes searching hers. "I had a great time today, Emma," he said softly. "I really hope we can do this again." Emma felt her heart race. "Me too," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. For a moment, they just stood there, the world around them quiet as they shared a silent understanding. Liam took a small step closer, his gaze never leaving hers. Before either of them could say anything else, Emma's phone buzzed in her pocket, breaking the moment. She pulled it out, glancing at the screen, and smiled at the message from Jenny, her best friend. "How's the date going?" Emma quickly texted back. "It's going great. I'll tell you all about it later." She looked back up at Liam, who was still standing there, waiting for her response. "I guess I should get going," Emma said reluctantly, her heart still racing. Liam smiled, but it was a soft, understanding smile. "Of course," he said. "I'll walk you to your car." "Oh?" As they walked together, Emma couldn't help but feel like this was the beginning of something important. She didn't know where it would lead, but for the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid to find out. The following week, things between Emma and Liam began to shift in ways neither of them expected. They continued seeing each other, spending more time together in small, quiet moments that felt meaningful. They met for coffee, went for walks in the park, and had dinner at a cozy restaurant that was far from the glitzy spots Liam usually frequented. Emma started to let her guard down, sharing more about her life, her dreams, and the things that made her happy. For the first time in a long while, she didn't feel like she had to hide behind a facade. Liam, too, seemed to open up more, revealing pieces of his life that he had kept hidden behind the walls of his successful career. One evening, as they sat in a small, dimly lit cafe, Emma couldn't help but notice how easy it was to talk to him. He didn't rush her or interrupt. He just listened, truly listened, and for Emma, that was a rare gift. It was a feeling that made her realize just how much she valued this connection between them, something real, something that felt different from anything she had experienced before. "You know," Emma began, breaking the comfortable silence that had settled between them, "I never thought I'd meet someone like you." She looked down at her coffee, suddenly feeling a little vulnerable. "I mean a guy like you with all your success. I didn't think you'd even notice someone like me." Liam reached across the table, gently taking her hand in his. His touch was warm, reassuring, as he met her gaze with a calm intensity. "You're not just someone like me, Emma," he said, his voice soft but sincere. "I noticed you because of who you are, not what you do or where you come from. You're real, and that's something I don't find every day." Emma felt her heart race, a mix of surprise and warmth flooding through her. She had always feared that her life, her dreams, her struggles would push people away. But Liam's words made her believe that maybe, just maybe, they could share something more than just fleeting moments. For the first time, Emma allowed herself to believe that this could be something real, not just a dream. She had spent so many years building walls around herself, afraid to let anyone in, but Liam was different. He wasn't looking at her with expectations or judgments. He was looking at her with something she hadn't felt in a long time: acceptance. It was a feeling she wasn't used to, but one she was beginning to crave. As the weeks passed, they continued to grow closer, their connection deepening with each passing day. They spent their weekends together, exploring new places, talking about their hopes for the future, and simply enjoying each other's company. Emma started to feel like she was finally living the life she had always dreamed of, the one that had felt so far out of reach just months before. She even started to believe that maybe, just maybe, she could have both the love she was beginning to find with Liam and the art career she had always dreamed of. But as much as Emma had started to open her heart, a part of her still held back. The doubts, the fears of being hurt were still there, lingering in the back of her mind. She was afraid of getting too close, afraid of letting herself fall for someone who had a life so different from hers. She had seen how people like Liam lived surrounded by wealth, opportunity, and expectations. She had none of that. She was just a girl trying to make her way in the world, unsure of what the future would hold. Would someone like Liam be able to understand her? Could he love her for who she truly was, or would he eventually realize she wasn't what he thought she was? One evening, as they walked through the city streets, the weight of Emma's thoughts began to take hold. They had just left a gallery opening where Emma had displayed some of her work. Liam had been there, supporting her, cheering her on, but Emma could tell something was weighing on her mind. She had been distant for most of the night, and Liam couldn't ignore it any longer. "Hey," Liam said gently, stopping in his tracks and turning to face her. "What's going on? You've been quiet all night." Emma hesitated for a moment. The words caught in her throat. She had been so caught up in her own fears that she hadn't even realized how it was affecting her. She looked up at him, her eyes soft with uncertainty. "I don't want to mess this up," she said quietly. "I've never been good at this, at relationships. I don't know if I'm the kind of person you need. I don't have the kind of life you're used to." Liam took a deep breath, his hand finding hers once again. "Emma, listen to me," he said, his voice firm but kind. "I don't need you to be someone you're not. I don't need you to change. What I need is you, exactly as you are. I want to be with you because I see the person you are, the person who's passionate, kind, and real. I don't care about the life you have, I care about the person you are." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She had never heard anyone speak to her like that before, and it was exactly what she needed to hear. For the first time in a long time, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she wasn't alone in this. Maybe she could have the love she deserved, the love she was afraid to believe in. As Liam leaned in to kiss her, Emma closed her eyes, letting go of all the doubts, all the fears. In that moment, she knew that whatever came next, they would face it together. And for the first time in her life, that felt like enough. As the weeks went by, Emma and Liam's relationship continued to deepen, becoming something both of them had never imagined. They shared everything with each other: hopes, fears, dreams for the future, and with each passing day, their bond grew stronger. Emma began to feel like she was living in a dream she had never dared to dream before. She was no longer just the waitress at the diner struggling to make ends meet. She was someone special to Liam, someone who mattered. The more time they spent together, the more she realized how much he truly cared for her. He supported her art, encouraged her to pursue her dreams, and made her feel like anything was possible. He was everything she had never thought she deserved, and yet here he was, with her, day after day. But as the relationship blossomed, Emma couldn't shake the nagging feeling that she wasn't enough for him. The doubts, though quieter than before, still lingered in the back of her mind. Liam was a tech millionaire, a man who had everything: money, success, a world full of opportunities, while Emma felt like she had so little to offer. She wasn't sure if he would still want her when the novelty of their relationship wore off. The fear of not being good enough, of being left behind, kept creeping in, and she didn't know how to shake it. One evening, as they sat on the couch in Liam's penthouse, the conversation shifted to something a little more serious. Emma could feel the weight of the unspoken words between them, and she knew it was time to confront her fears. She couldn't keep hiding behind the walls she had built for so long. She had to face the truth, no matter how vulnerable it made her feel. "Liam," Emma began, her voice tentative, "I need to talk to you about something." Liam looked at her, his expression soft and understanding. He set his glass down on the coffee table and leaned forward, giving her his full attention. "What's on your mind?" he asked. Emma hesitated for a moment, collecting her thoughts. "I've been thinking a lot lately, and I don't know if I'm enough for you. You have so much, and I don't want to hold you back. I'm not like the women you're used to. You have this life, this world I don't belong to, and I don't want to mess it all up." She stopped, her heart pounding in her chest. The fear of saying the wrong thing, of pushing him away, was overwhelming, but she couldn't keep it inside anymore. Liam sat quietly for a moment, his gaze never leaving hers. Then, slowly, he reached out and took her hand in his. His touch was warm, steady, and it comforted her more than she expected. "Emma," he said softly, "I don't want anyone else. I don't care about all that stuff: the money, the success, the fancy lifestyle. What matters to me is you, who you are, how you make me feel when I'm with you. I'm not with you because of what you have or what you don't have. I'm with you because you're everything I never knew I needed." His words settled into her heart, pushing the doubts aside, even if just for a moment. For a long time, Emma had believed that love was something to be earned, that she had to prove herself worthy of someone's affection. But now, sitting here with Liam, hearing the sincerity in his voice, she began to realize that love wasn't about being perfect or having everything figured out. It was about being real, being honest, and letting someone see you for who you truly are. And that was exactly what Liam had done. He had seen her, all of her, and yet he was still here, still holding her hand, still choosing her. "I'm scared, Liam," Emma admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Scared that I'm not good enough for you, that you'll realize one day that you can do better, that I'll disappoint you." Her chest tightened as she spoke the words she had kept locked away for so long. She had never felt more exposed, more vulnerable, but it felt strangely freeing to say it out loud. Liam squeezed her hand gently, his eyes soft with understanding. "I'm not going anywhere, Emma. I'm here because I want to be. And I'm not going to leave just because things get hard. Relationships aren't perfect, but if you're willing to take the journey with me, then we'll figure it out together." His words filled her with a sense of peace, and for the first time in a long while, she felt like she didn't have to carry her fears alone. Liam was right. Love wasn't about being perfect. It was about showing up for each other, even in the messy, uncertain moments. As she sat there, holding his hand, Emma felt a weight lift off her shoulders. The fear of not being enough still lingered, but for the first time, it didn't feel as heavy. She didn't have to have everything figured out to be loved. All she had to do was be herself, and that was more than enough for Liam. The next day, Emma found herself standing in front of her canvas, brush in hand, staring at the empty space waiting to be filled. She had spent so much time questioning her worth, questioning whether she could ever be enough for someone like Liam, but now, with the clarity of his words still fresh in her mind, she felt like she had a new sense of purpose. She didn't have to prove anything. She just needed to create, to let the art flow through her, to embrace her dreams without fear. As she picked up her brush and dipped it into the paint, Emma smiled. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time she felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be, and with Liam by her side she was ready to face whatever came next. As the weeks went on, Emma and Liam's relationship continued to grow stronger. They were no longer just two people casually dating. They were becoming a team, a partnership built on trust, vulnerability, and shared dreams. Emma had slowly started to embrace the idea that she was worthy of love, and Liam's constant reassurance made her feel like she could truly be herself with him. He never once tried to change her, never once made her feel small or inadequate. He celebrated her passion for art, encouraged her to chase her dreams, and supported her through every challenge that came her way. It was everything she had always hoped for, but never thought she would find. One evening, Liam surprised her by inviting her to a special event, a private exhibition featuring some of her artwork. She was initially overwhelmed by the idea of showcasing her work in such an upscale setting, but Liam assured her it would be a simple gathering of people who truly appreciated art. He had worked with his team to organize it, wanting to give Emma the chance to share her talent with the world in a way that felt authentic to her. "This is your time," he told her softly as they stood in front of the venue. "I know how hard you've worked to get here. Tonight, it's all about you." His words made her heart swell with gratitude and love. She had never imagined that someone like Liam, who had so much already, would put so much effort into helping her succeed. The night of the event, Emma felt a mix of excitement and nerves. She was used to small galleries, local shows, where her art was a hobby more than a career, but this felt different. The room was filled with high-profile guests, and as she looked around, she realized that they were all genuinely admiring her work. She had spent years questioning her ability, her worth as an artist, but tonight, she saw it reflected in the eyes of others. People were talking about her work, discussing the emotion and passion that went into each piece, and it was all thanks to Liam's belief in her. As the evening unfolded, Emma and Liam moved through the crowd together, talking to guests, sharing laughs, and genuinely enjoying the night. But there was one moment, one brief but powerful moment, when Emma realized just how much Liam had impacted her life. She was standing by one of her paintings, listening to a conversation between Liam and a fellow guest, when she turned and caught sight of him. He was watching her, his eyes soft with admiration, his expression full of pride. It was then that she understood he had never looked at her like he was doing her a favor by being with her. He didn't see her as someone in need of fixing or saving. He saw her as someone worthy of all the love and success she could ever dream of. And in that moment, Emma realized that she had never felt more seen or loved in her life. The night ended with Emma standing next to her favorite painting in the gallery, Liam beside her, his hand on her shoulder. It had been a success, more than she had ever imagined, and she couldn't help but feel like she was standing at the beginning of a new chapter in her life. A chapter where her dreams didn't just feel like dreams, but tangible, achievable goals. Liam had helped her realize that the only thing standing in the way of her success was herself. And now, with him by her side, she felt ready to take on the world. As they left the event, Liam turned to Emma with a smile. "So, what do you think? Did you have a good time?" Emma smiled back, her heart full of gratitude. "I had an amazing time. I can't believe all of this is real." She reached for his hand and squeezed it gently. "Thank you, Liam. You don't know how much this means to me." Liam gave her a soft chuckle. "It means everything to me that you're here, Emma. You deserve this, all of it. And I'll be here to support you every step of the way." The next few months passed in a whirlwind of excitement as Emma's art began to gain more recognition. She started receiving commissions and invitations to showcase her work at larger exhibitions. Liam remained by her side, not as a savior, but as a partner who believed in her every step of the way. They spent their days exploring new places, having quiet dinners, and growing even closer with each passing day. But despite all the success, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. She had everything she had ever dreamed of: a thriving career, a loving partner, and the chance to live her passion, but there was still one thing she hadn't allowed herself to fully embrace. The idea of a future with Liam, a future where they built something together, was a dream she was afraid to let herself believe in. One night, as they sat together in Liam's apartment, enjoying a quiet evening, Emma turned to him with a serious look on her face. "Liam," she began softly, "I've been thinking a lot about us, about everything we've built together. And I've realized something. I'm ready for the next step. I don't want to just be here with you in the moment. I want to build a life with you, a future. I want everything with you." Her voice shook a little, the weight of her words filling the room. Liam looked at her with warmth in his eyes, his lips curling into a smile. He reached over, gently lifting her chin so that she was looking into his eyes. "Emma, I've been thinking the same thing," he said, his voice filled with sincerity. "I've never felt more sure about anything in my life than I do about us. I want that too. I want a future with you. One where we can build something together, not just as two individuals, but as a team." In that moment, Emma knew that everything she had ever wanted, everything she had ever doubted, was finally within her reach. The future wasn't just a dream, it was a reality, and it was waiting for them both. As the days turned into weeks, Emma and Liam's relationship began to solidify into something even deeper than either of them had expected. They were no longer just two people in a new relationship, they were building a life together, one step at a time. Emma had grown more confident in herself, both as an artist and as a person. She no longer second-guessed herself at every turn, and for the first time, she felt like she was living a life she had always dreamed of. Her art was being celebrated in ways she never thought possible, and the love she shared with Liam felt like a dream come true. It was as if the pieces of her life were finally falling into place. But as happy as she was, there was still one thing that loomed over her: the future. A part of her was still afraid, still unsure if this was real, still unsure if she could keep up with the life Liam had built. One evening, after a long day of work at the gallery, Emma sat down on the couch in her apartment, her mind racing. She and Liam had been talking about the future, about living together, about what their next steps would be. While the idea of a future with him excited her, it also terrified her. She had never allowed herself to dream so big before, never allowed herself to believe that someone like her could have it all. She loved Liam with everything in her, but was she really ready to take the next step with him? Could she really be a part of his world, or would she always feel like she was just a visitor in it? These doubts, no matter how small, began to weigh heavily on her heart. Her thoughts were interrupted by a text message from Liam. "I've been thinking about us, about everything we've talked about. I don't want to rush you, but I want to know what's in your heart. Are you ready for the next step?" Emma stared at the message for a moment, her heart skipping a beat. Was she ready? Could she give him the answer he was hoping for? She loved him, but was she truly ready to commit to this life with him, to take that leap of faith? She took a deep breath, her fingers hovering over her phone. It was time to stop running from the fear, to stop hiding from the uncertainties. She was ready for this, ready for everything that came with it, even if it meant stepping into the unknown. Slowly, she typed her response. "I'm ready, Liam. I want this. I want us." She hit send, her heart pounding in her chest. She had said it, and now there was no going back. She knew, deep down, that this was the right decision. There was no more doubt, no more hesitation. Less than a minute later, Liam's reply came through. "You have no idea how happy this makes me. I've been thinking the same thing. I want to build a life with you, Emma. Together, there's nothing we can't do." Emma smiled as she read the message, feeling the weight in her chest lift. She had taken the leap, and now it was time to let go of the fear. The future was no longer something to dread, it was something to look forward to. The next week, Liam took her on a surprise trip to the countryside, away from the noise of the city, to a peaceful little cottage by the lake. It was exactly what they both needed, a quiet, serene place to focus on each other, away from the distractions of their busy lives. As they sat by the fire one evening, the crackling of the wood filling the silence, Liam took Emma's hand in his eyes filled with tenderness. "I want to take our time with this, Emma," he said softly, his voice steady. "I want to make sure that when we take that next step, it's because we're both ready, because we both know it's right. No pressure, no rush. Just us, together." Emma's heart swelled with love for him. This was exactly what she needed to hear. She hadn't realized how much pressure she had been putting on herself until that moment. They spent the next few days hiking through the hills, visiting local farms, and enjoying simple pleasures that felt grounding and real. Each day, they talked about their hopes and dreams, and as Emma listened to Liam share his vision for the future, she realized how much she had grown in such a short amount of time. She wasn't the same woman who had first met him, unsure of her worth and unsure of what the future held. She had learned to trust herself, to trust him, and most importantly, to trust the love they shared. On their last night at the cottage, as they sat by the lake under a sky full of stars, Liam turned to Emma, his gaze soft but unwavering. "You've shown me a side of life I didn't know I was missing," he said quietly. "I want to continue this journey with you, whatever it looks like, however it unfolds. Will you be by my side, Emma? Will you take the next step with me?" Emma's heart swelled with emotion. This was the moment she had been waiting for, the moment she realized that the future was already hers, that they could build something incredible together. With a smile, Emma leaned in and kissed him gently, her voice full of conviction when she spoke. "I'm ready, Liam. I've always been ready for this." They held each other close, the world around them disappearing as they shared a quiet moment of understanding. They didn't need any grand gestures, any elaborate promises. They had each other, and that was all they needed to know. As they drove back to the city hand in hand, Emma felt a sense of peace she had never known before. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew one thing for sure: whatever came next, she would face it with Liam by her side, and that was more than enough. The days after their trip to the countryside felt like a turning point for both Emma and Liam. The quiet moments they shared, away from the hustle of the city, had allowed them to connect on a deeper level, and now, back in their routine, everything seemed clearer. Emma had made her peace with the fears that had once held her back. She no longer felt like she was pretending to be someone she wasn't. She was exactly who she needed to be, and that was more than enough for Liam. And Liam, for his part, had never felt more sure about their relationship. The time they spent together had made him realize just how much he wanted to build a life with her. There was no doubt in his mind that they were meant to be together. They had faced their uncertainties, worked through their differences, and had come out stronger on the other side. As the months passed, their connection only deepened. Emma's art was flourishing, with more opportunities opening up for her than she had ever imagined. She was finally able to make her dream a reality, with Liam's unwavering support by her side. But it wasn't just her career that was thriving, so was their relationship. They were becoming partners in every sense of the word. Liam was there for her during the late nights spent in her studio, offering encouragement when she doubted herself, and celebrating each success along the way. Emma, in turn, was his rock, reminding him of the things that mattered most in life: love, connection, and the importance of staying grounded. One evening, as they sat together in their favorite restaurant, Emma noticed something different in Liam's eyes. There was a quiet intensity there, something that made her pause for a moment. She set her glass down, meeting his gaze. "What's on your mind?" she asked, her voice soft. Liam smiled, but it was a smile full of meaning, full of the love and depth they had built over time. "I've been thinking a lot about us," he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "About the life we've created, about everything we've been through. I've never felt this sure about anything before, Emma. You've shown me what it means to truly live, to love without holding back, and I want to continue this journey with you." Emma's heart raced as she listened to him speak. She had known, deep down, that this moment was coming, but hearing it from him still left her breathless. She had never imagined that her life would turn out like this. She had never imagined that someone like Liam, with all his success and experience, would choose her, would see her as his equal, as someone worth building a future with. She had always thought she wasn't enough, but now, in this moment, she knew she was more than enough. She was exactly what he needed, and he was exactly what she needed. "I feel the same way," Emma replied, her voice full of conviction. "I've never been more sure of anything in my life. I want this too, Liam. I want to build a future with you, to take on everything life has to offer together." Liam's eyes softened as he reached for her hand, gently holding it in his. "Then let's do it," he said, his words simple but filled with all the love and promise of their shared future. "Let's take this journey, side by side, for as long as it lasts." And with that, Emma knew. She knew that whatever came next, whatever challenges or triumphs awaited them, they would face them together. They had built something beautiful, something real, and they were ready to continue building it, one day at a time. As they walked hand in hand out of the restaurant, Emma looked up at the night sky, her heart full of gratitude. She had found everything she had ever wanted, not in the way she had imagined, but in a way that felt even more perfect than she could have ever dreamed. With Liam by her side, Emma knew that the future wasn't just a possibility. It was a certainty. They had found love in the most unexpected of places, and now they were ready to face whatever life had in store for them, knowing that they were no longer alone. Together, they could accomplish anything. And as they walked down the street, the city lights twinkling around them, Emma realized that this was just the beginning. The rest of their story was yet to be written, but whatever came next, she knew it would be an adventure worth taking. With Liam by her side, she was ready for whatever the future held.